Greetings and welcome to another round of Master Phil in your corner. This is episode number 120, and today we'll be addressing injury recovery. And we'll have a special guest with us today, so get ready. So before we get into it, we have to thank our sponsors, philross.com. Without philross.com, none of this would be possible. So for your training, your self-defense, kettlebells, anything related to that, just be sure to check out philross.com. Two major announcements. One is that the book entitled A Guide to Street Survival and Self-Defense will be available. It will be available dropping this week. So make sure you get your pre-order in, and you can get your pre-order in by going to survivalstrong.philross.com. Get your discount, get your signed copy. It'll come to you free shipping. In addition to that, we're also hosting a kettlebell seminar, certification seminar, where continuing education credits are awarded. And this will be on June 2nd in Mahwah, New Jersey at Excel Physical Therapy. Okay, without further ado, talking about physical therapy, we have our very special guest here today, Jared Debenedictus. He is a doctor of physical therapy as well as a college professor. He is a former athlete, well, still an athlete, but competitive athlete in football and other sports. We're here to talk about injury recovery and preparation for going into surgery, as I did for my shoulder. And Jared and I worked together, so he was actually intimately involved in the recovery of my shoulder, which was done almost 6 months ago. Jared, take it away. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
So really glad to be here. As Phil had mentioned before, I'm a doctorate of physical therapy. I own and operate a physical therapy facility in Mahwah, New Jersey, and I deal with athletes pretty much exclusively. And when we talk about athlete, we can really talk about an athlete from a recreational standpoint, somebody who likes to be, staying fit and everything, or an individual who's competitive. I deal with individuals in that whole kind of genre of being an athlete, and that's I rehab that specific clientele pretty much exclusively. What I also do on top of that is I'll do a lot of nutrition coaching with these athletes as well. Personally, we talk about rehab and everything. I think, you mentioned the prehab. I think that's something that goes under the radar. People always think of after the injury, right? But the corrective stuff ahead of time is really important. Even if we can't actually denote that it decreases the likelihood of injury, it at least prepares you for the rehab afterwards, right? If you do have the injury. And I think nutrition is one of those things that often goes underlooked as well, right? It's one of those things that we had that was our first conversation, right?
Yes.
We talked about collagen that very first day. We talked about water intake that very first day. It's something I do with all my clients. Is I think nutrition is something that goes under the radar, I think, a little too much, because if we don't have that proper nutritional intake coming in, it doesn't matter what kind of special equipment that you're using or what too cool exercise you're doing, you're not going to recover effectively. So,
one of the things that they did bring up that was very important when we were going through rehab, we were talking about, my weight, because I was worried about gaining too much weight while being inactive. And then, we talked about dieting, and but you still need to make sure you get the proper amount of nutrition to promote the healing. So it was like I had to kind of figure out what I was doing. So I had to do a lot more walking because I couldn't run,
Right.
And I couldn't even do sit-ups or squats for a while.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's a huge factor, especially, so like you talk about, this kind of a setting and everything. I've dealt with a lot of competitive athletes that have weight classes, and you can't let those things get out of control, because then when they get back into their sport, they're going to be in a lot of trouble trying to get their weight back down again. So you need appropriate amount of nutrients coming in, though, in order to allow for proper healing. Otherwise, if you're in a calorie deficit during that time period, it's going to be a really tough recovery. It's not going to heal. Whatever the injury is not going to heal as well as it would if you were eating an appropriate amount of nutrients. So that's a conversation I have quite a bit with a lot of my clients about that. Yeah.
Well, another thing on a nutritional basis is the amount of alcohol consumed, because when
Yeah.
you're in a healing process, I find it's best to abstain from alcohol. Um, and remember, I think I told you remember that one time that I did drink, and I'm like,
Mm.
and I didn't
Yeah.
drink that much.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this thing kills today. And then
Yeah. Yeah.
after a couple days, I was fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can talk about that from a couple of different avenues, right? So, really, I mean, it's kind of what I'll teach in my classes, is what I talk to my patients about. The current notion on alcohol is that it's poison, right? Plain and simple, whatever your like of alcohol is or dislike of alcohol, it is a poison. It is something that our body does not need, that we end up having to filter out. It does not do anything positive in our body, despite the claims of antioxidants coming from great red wine and everything like that. Let's talk about that for a different day. But it's doing something negative. So it's taking energy away from the healing process in order to detox, right? Get that stuff out. And then on top of it, if you're drinking alcohol, two things are happening. One, you're not drinking water, right? Likely. And two, you are actively becoming in the state of dehydration, right? You're becoming hypohydrated. And if you're in that process of dehydration, then the muscle, the nutrients, I'm sorry, the water content is not being utilized to heal the thing that you need it to.
Yeah.
So now you're in a different state, you know?
I want to bring a couple things about alcohol that a lot of people don't know, or at least don't acknowledge the fact that alcohol has zero nutritional value. It's empty calories.
Yeah, just calories. That's it.
Just calories. Just
7 grams, 7 calories per gram. That's it.
Yep,
Yeah,
7 calories per gram, and you're
per
getting
gram. That's it.
from.
Yeah.
That's it. And the other thing is a little tip: if you are going to drink, then do a 1-to-1. So what do I mean by that? If you're gonna have a glass of wine, have a big glass of water with it
Yeah.
to help
Yeah.
with that situation. So make
Yeah.
sure you drink water. And I mean, I know some people who drink every day. I mean, that's what you want to do. Go ahead. It's not.
Right. Right.
But if on the occasion that I do have alcohol, like I did the other night, it was at a big concert. But every drink I had a bottle of water.
Right.
I was fine with
Yeah.
it. So
Right, right, right. Yeah, as long as you're monitoring that stuff, again, the argument is that there is no quantity of alcohol that's safe. There's no quantity of alcohol that is
no.
okay for us to consume, right? We've had several studies that have shown that even small amounts of alcohol can increase certain types of cancers and metabolic disease. That being said, there is a social and emotional aspect to these things. So, socially, is it mentally, is it okay to do those kinds of things? Like, in my opinion, sure, right? Like, totally fine, as long as you're also on top of the other nutritional intake as well, right?
And another thing people have to watch out too is if they're drinking too much alcohol, then you're going to crave sugar the next day, and processed carbs and so forth. So that's something also to be alerted.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah, it does bring a whole lot of slew of other things. So, like,
Yes.
and going back to your point about doing it during a recovery, we always have to remember, like, what is the purpose of the time, right? What's the purpose of what you're doing currently at this moment? And the purpose is recovery.
Right.
That's not helping with the recovery. So, limiting that to pretty much nothing during that time period is a really important, definitely can help improve somebody's potential
Oh yeah.
and that recovery period for sure.
Yeah. No, definitely helped me, because I tell you,
Yeah.
I had a couple glasses of wine that one time, and I
Yeah.
felt
Right.
it. And
Right.
then I'm like, I'm just going back to not drinking at all.
Right. Yeah. For sure. For sure. Yeah.
It's funny because I go to the doctor next week, so it'll be 6 months exactly
6 months in.
after when I had my operation. I mean, look, I'm already cranking out 50 knuckle push-ups.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and sometimes it gets a little achy, but that's to be expected.
Totally normal. Shoulders are a cranky joint, right? They just are in general a cranky joint. There's not a whole lot of space in there to begin with. And when there is inflammation from anything, right, you get inflammation from sleeping on it the wrong way, and it'll set things off a little bit. And your body is still very prone to producing inflammation in that area. It takes a long time. Like, I know we've talked about this before. You are an outlier when it comes to the rehab from the rotator cuff, right? This is not that wasn't a normal process. You healed significantly quicker than most people, which, because
But
dialed into, fitness, dialed into nutrition, dialed into the prehab ahead of time, right? All those things were dialed in. So it made the recovery a whole lot easier. But normally when somebody comes out of these surgeries, the first thing I'll tell them is expect 12 months to 18 months of recovery. You know, to expect 12 to 18 months before you're back to what you're doing. This is a totally different scenario because the tools were already there. The necessary building blocks were already there ahead of time.
Oh yeah, I think we should talk about that a little bit because the benefits of being in shape and being aware of body position and movement and so forth, and how much. I mean, look, I'm this year I can collect Social Security, so I'm no spring chicken. Yeah. So, but I think one of the reasons I was able to recover so quickly was the fact that I did observe all of these tenets, being in shape, being physically aware of my body, good nutrition,
Right.
pretty consistent weight, constantly moving, and the importance of this for everyone. And it doesn't have, you don't have to do the things I do. I mean, I think everyone should, but no, that's me.
Right.
Well, tell people about the importance of movement and proper movement and strength training throughout your life.
Yeah. So, I mean, so we'll start that conversation with the injury, right? There is nothing that we can do. There's not a single treatment technique. There's not a single type of modality that can decrease an individual's risk to zero of injury, right? It doesn't matter what you do, like, and if you see something that shows that and everything, you move in the other direction because there is not a single thing that we can produce that has shown validity in decreasing an individual's risk of injury to zero. We move, we have potential to get injury, right? That's just how it works. We can obviously mitigate that risk quite a bit, but we can't reduce it down to zero, right? It's never possible. That being said, we do have proper mechanics that do help with improving the ability for our body to function properly, right? The example I always give of this is, if you try to raise your arm, right? Standing up nice and tall, you raise your arm up overhead, it will likely go most of the way, right? If not, goes all the way.
Mm-hmm.
If you change your posture and you round your shoulders forward, attempt to bring your arm up now, right? It is impossible in that position to bring your arm overhead. Okay. That is a nice indication that movement patterns and posture are important, right? That's important for us to be mindful of and do throughout and to be mindful of throughout the day.
Yeah.
So we do have appropriate and inappropriate movement patterns. So that's getting into those appropriate patterns prior to the potential to, like getting into those appropriate patterns, getting to the habit of those appropriate patterns. In the instant that you do have an injury, you are already primed, ready to go to be recovering quicker because we don't have to learn those new patterns, right? Where there is an individual who doesn't move well, that takes a whole lot longer. The first stage of me getting them back to normal is getting them to move better so that they don't have a reoccurrence of the injury that they just had. So whether that injury led to surgery or it just led to not being able to perform the activity that they were doing before, right? So moving well is important, right? It's an important thing. Now we can talk about it from a standpoint of like tissue, right? Types of tissue. I actually was just teaching this in the class before I got onto the podcast here. Body composition matters, right? I'm a firm believer in the health at any weight, right? But body composition matters. If you are a larger individual, but you have a large amount of muscle mass in comparison to your body fat percentage, you are generally still in a healthy state. Okay. Yeah. And now if you vice versa that and you say you're a larger individual but have a low amount of muscle mass, you're in a dangerous state, right? It's not my opinion. That's fact. That's just the way it is.
Well, here's an important thing that we should stress. Despite what's going on socially, by people saying it's okay, it's not. It's not okay.
Right. Yeah, that whole thing I think got taken way out of context, and it just gave people an excuse.
Yes.
I don't have to exercise or eat healthy because I could still be healthy even though I'm overweight. And the real rationale is that works only if you have a large amount of muscle mass and your body fat percentage is still relatively low in conjunction with that, right? That's the only way that works, right? So just by looking at an individual can't determine if somebody's healthy or not. Vice versa, it works the same way with somebody that's lean too. Somebody that's skinny, I should say, not lean. If that individual has a low amount of muscle mass, even though they're quote unquote normal weight on the scale, does not mean they're healthy, right? So strength training is, in my opinion, the best way to improve health.
Yes.
I know some people will shy away from it, and I think that comes with just being nervous about it, right? Just like a general having an unawareness of the movements and everything, and that's where education comes in, and that's why they have people like me and you, right? To do those kinds of things. But I think strength training is essential for health because it's the only way that our body is going to build lean tissue, right? Our body is not going to build lean tissue unless it's given the environment that it has to, and that happens with strength training. So we have to do that, and then we could talk about lifetime, like a lifespan.
Yeah.
We could talk about any individual you've ever met, and they get into their 70s and their 80s, right? And the people that are functioning really well, and you're like, man, how are they 90 and they're still playing tennis?
Yeah.
And you look at what they did in their lifespan, and what they were doing was continuously telling their body that they needed to hold on to muscle.
Yes.
That's what happens, right? And that's when people so I don't work with this population anymore, but when I started my career, it was a very real scenario for me to see an individual in their 80s that couldn't get out of a chair. And the likelihood there was, or the scenario there was that they ended up not requiring their body to keep the muscle. And muscle is expensive for the body to keep, so it's going to drop it. And then, so strength training, I think, is an essential piece of healthcare for the lifespan, right? We should be strength training throughout the lifespan.
Yeah, I mean that's critical because as we age, we suffer from sarcopenia, which is the loss of muscle mass, and people, a lot of people don't realize, oh, I'll do it later. Well, there's no such thing as later. You have to do it now, and the earlier you get into the game, the better it is. I want to ask something. So if we're talking about shoulders specifically, what are some of the most common shoulder? We know the shoulder injuries, but what caused them? Like, is it a lack of strength? Is it a postural thing? Is it a combination? What have you seen that does contribute to those shoulder injuries?
Yeah, so good question. So I'll tell you from my personal standpoint. Again, I see a lot of athletes. So I see a lot of overhead athletes and everything, and I'll see a group of individuals like competitive, and then I see recreational. And if you have a recreational individual, they're on the computer all day, so they're into not a great posture, right? We've kind of denoted that with the computers and everything. So that question I would answer in two different parts. I would say posture is a big one. But posture then leads to imbalances in muscle tissue. So what ends up happening is we get really, really strong front muscles, right? Like pecs and biceps, right? They end up getting really strong because we're utilizing them all day long. What do we not utilize being on a computer? What do we not utilize? Yeah, rotator cuffs, shoulder blade, scapular stabilizers, right? We don't utilize them the right way. So what ends up happening is you get an individual who's on the computer all day, and it's all front, no rotator cuff. And then you tell them, hey, go into the gym now and go do a dumbbell bench press with 80-pound dumbbells, and their rotator cuff can't tolerate it. So what ends up happening is they start getting a lot of outside shoulder muscle work, like stimulus, which is the body's defense mechanism. It's a secondary supplier for that stability. So it's like, hey, kick in, we're all good. Rotator cuff, you don't have to do any work. Don't worry about it. And then what will end up developing is this constant imbalance where it's not enough strength in the back, too much strength in the front, and then it leads to a whole slew of different injuries. Most of the people that come in to see me, unless they had surgery, of course, right? It's a kind of like a step process of releasing tight muscles, right? Because the rotator cuff still wants to work, like it still wants to be active, but it can't. It's just not strong enough. So a lot of times there's a lot of really painful muscle knots in the rotator cuffs. Can't strengthen anything that has that in there. So we've got to release those. Once I'll release that, then it's just a matter of strengthening backside and then getting that posture a little bit better if I need to and stuff. And then people are typically back to where they were before. And a lot of people, believe it or not, will come after they see me. They'll go back into the gym and they'll surpass their personal records, right? They'll blow their PRs out of the water all of a sudden. And they're like, I don't know what you did, but I'm so much stronger than I were before. Everything feels more solid. And it's because the muscles are finally working the right way. Right. So it's usually an imbalance that happens there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's some other aspects of having that rounded shoulder and the kyphotic neck situation, which also adversely affect your cardiovascular system. Would you want to expand on that a little bit? That being hunched over, how it kind of cramps it up?
Yeah, so I mean, anytime we're in a different posture, all systems have to work differently. We could talk about that from like a breathing standpoint, right? Diaphragm doesn't work very well if rib cage is collapsed, and if diaphragm's not working, then we have secondary muscles. Like anybody who's ever done a long run knows that you feel it up into the neck in here and stuff, right? You just feel it up into there, and that's because those muscles are muscles of inspiration, right? They help us get more air in when our diaphragm can't do the work by itself. And what'll end up happening is they can get strained if we're breathing too hard. If you're in that rounded over posture, you're likely using a lot of those muscles all the time,
Mhm.
which then creates a lot of dysfunction into the neck region and stuff. But of course, not just generally not being able to get a lot of lung like volume expansion because the rib cage is collapsed. I find that is a big deal for a lot of people.
Right.
That would be where I would find most of that issue with cardiovascular system coming through would be the respiration side of it, just not getting enough blood flow into their, or I'm sorry, not getting enough oxygen into their lungs.
Yeah. Yeah. And that does have obviously long-term effects too.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, the longer anybody stays in those postures, the harder it is to come out of. The longer it is to break those habits and to fix the structural changes. So, sometimes I'll see people that will come into me with neck pain, and I'll tell them it's not coming from your neck; it's coming from your mid back. I do a little bit of work on somebody's neck to make their symptoms come down because that's important too.
Yeah.
But you've got to correct the mid back, which is where all of that tightness comes from. So then it's got to be an expansion of the mid back to open everything up again.
Now, have you found that a lot of people are weak in the scapular region and immobile in the thoracic region? Those are
Oh my God, yeah, for sure.
right?
Yeah, yeah. 90% of people that come to me, unless I have an athlete that is very in tune to that particular region and they know they need to be doing certain strengthening exercises, most people are really, really strong without having to utilize them, right? But that's just a means to an end kind of thing. Eventually, it's going to break down. Tissue structure is going to break down.
Yeah.
Eventually, something is going to get injured. And, I've had 250-pound men come into my room that can clean and press like 200 like 400 pounds, like no
Right.
big deal, right? It's huge. And I'll put them on the table and I can push their arm down with one hand in certain positions, right? Like that's a nice indication that they're not using the muscles they need to, but they're very strong. They can push a lot of weight over their head and stuff, but just not utilizing the muscles that are needed for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a very common thing.
Yeah. I mean, I find I like people to do scapular strengthening, scapular push-ups and thoracic bridges.
Yeah,
I think those are a couple of really good exercises that most people don't even know what they are.
yeah.
It should be using them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the push up plus is one of my favorite
Mhm.
exercises to do for like scapular stable, so like shoulder blade stabilization.
Mhm.
Especially somebody who tells me that they can do a lot of push ups, but then it causes them some pain. Like if they do them, it's a nice indication of shoulder blades just not like stabilized. It's not in the right spot. Have them do a couple of those, and then they usually feel so much stronger.
Yeah, I find a lot of people do push-ups incorrectly anyway.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. The elbow angle. Are we talking about
Elbows are
the elbow angle? Yeah,
flaring.
yeah, for
Nope.
sure. It's
Yeah,
awful.
oh man, I taught a seminar down for ACE back in 2013, the big symposium they had in Florida, and I had a room of 55 people working on push-ups. Now, some of them had their doctorates in exercise.
Right.
Out of those 55 people, five of them did push-ups correctly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. They all did
Yeah,
until we
I
left,
know.
but I couldn't believe it. It was
Yeah, I know. I
amazing.
know. You know what surprises me even more on that is that there's so much more focus on a bench press than there is on a
Yes.
push up. So like people will get on the bench press and they'll do the whole thing, lock
Yeah.
elbows, right? They'll get
Right.
down 45 degrees, right? Shoulder blades are stable, and
Yeah.
then they get into a push up position and it's like they've never done anything before. It's
Right.
it's the craziest thing. Yeah. Lead with their neck and stuff and I'm like, "What is going on?"
Yeah,
You know?
things, and if you look at it, a push-up is much more valuable to everyday activities than a bench press is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure. You're talking to somebody who I love to bench press, right? There's nothing more fun than pushing a big bar over your, above your chest onto a bench. Like it's fun to push that weight, right, like that. However, functionally, a bench press is really arbitrary, right? It's much more important to be able to push yourself up off the ground, I would argue that a standing cable press is a significantly more valuable
Yes.
thing, especially like in your case, from a fighter standpoint and stuff, being able to push somebody away from you in a standing position, right? Because people don't realize. So this is my argument with the football combine, right? The football combine. It's really cool to see somebody bench press 225 pounds for like 40 reps, right? 50 reps plus. It's really cool to see that. However, it is meaningless when it comes to football, right?
100%.
We have a law in fitness that says that anything that you train, it is only going to get better in that specific task, right? So like a bench press, you get stronger in a bench press. It does not automatically translate to standing presses, like on a field, for instance, or in a fight, right? I would argue that a standing press, even a standing plyometric press, right? Like being able to throw a medicine ball in front of you, or how fast you can throw a cable press, right? Would be a much more valuable test, even a much more valuable training tool in everyday life. Something that I do, semi-regularly in my training programs and stuff. I'll get into a split stance position and do cable presses, right, in that stance. And it is pretty wild how much weaker your body will feel in a new position like that, right? But it doesn't automatically translate, right? Like bench press 300 pounds, but you can't cable press 100 on each hand, right? It's like, it's a very different sensation. So that's my argument. There's much more functional to do something like a push-up, or even, like I said, the standing one would be my argument there.
Well, the other thing is that, there's also like a diminishing return too, because if you look at, let's take the squat, for instance, if you can squat 400 pounds, it's helping your 40 speed. But yet, if you're training and you're squatting maybe 500 pounds, that can also have a negative effect on your ability to sprint fast.
So, yeah.
You have to find where that is.
This is something I'll talk about with people, is you always have to think about goals, right? Same thing we were just talking about with like the purpose of rehab and the purpose of your nutrition, right? Purpose is important. What is the purpose of what you're doing? If you're trying to get a better bench press, then by all means you need to bench press, right? If you're trying to be more functional in life, though, there's other things, right? And like, just like you mentioned, the sprint speed, right? There's way more things that are going to be much more beneficial to you than just repetitively squatting, right? We need to do other things, sled pulls and plyometric jumps, and there's a lot. Yeah, right. Lots of different things involved there. What's the purpose, right? Find the purpose and then translate everything back to that purpose.
That's that's something that people really have to do. Like, what is your purpose? You're training.
Right.
This is the reason you're training. I mean, like, honestly, over a certain age, in my estimation, you shouldn't be doing bench press. I even flipped around my pull-ups. Like, I'm doing chin-ups now, because having to do pull-ups this way beats the daylights out of the shoulders and forearms. I turn them this way. Look, I in my workout the day before surgery, I did 50 chin-ups the day before. If I did one like this, I'd fall on the floor.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, again, it's all about where the purpose comes from, right? Into the later stages of life and stuff. Again, as a focus of an individual who at one point in my career was working with a lot of elderly individuals, the focus was we have to train falling on the floor, getting up off the floor. Like, we have to train that, and a push-up would be way more beneficial than a bench press, right?
Absolutely.
If that's what somebody likes to do when they're in the gym, though, I'm not going to tell you can't do it or don't do it, right? If that's what you go to the gym to do and you like it, yeah. But if you have goals, the goals have to translate back to the exercise, for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely something important to bear in mind.
Right.
Now, your facility right now is in Mahwah, right?
Yeah.
And advanced movement therapy.
Yeah.
So it's right now, it's just you, or it's just you. You're the only guy there, right? So they come to get you.
They get me, yeah, for sure. Yeah, every time. Yep. So I started that business because if you've been to other physical therapy facilities and stuff, and it's not the facility's problem or fault, it's the insurance fault, right? It's the fault of the insurance. We are in a profession dictated by what the insurance allows us to do.
Right.
I just felt like I could give more value than I was able to in a setting where I was seeing multiple people per hour.
Right.
So when in my practice right now, it's me only, and people come to see me, and that my dedication is to that individual for that whole time period, right? And I find that the value just is a lot higher, right? Especially we can have these kinds of conversations like me and you had in the beginning about
Right.
nutrition, and we talked about stress, right? And those are beneficial things. They need to be talked about, but as a staff PT in a clinic, I don't have time to do that. So
right,
yeah,
you're bouncing from person to person. You don't have
yeah,
to be individualized and really focus on
yeah,
the complete rehabilitation and the philosophy that goes behind it, because understanding the
right,
philosophy is tantamount to their success. And
right, absolutely, yeah, for sure.
awesome, good stuff. So now, for people to get in touch with you, should they just contact contact you via email, go to your website? Because we're going to post the website in the bottom, in the
Yeah, so
description.
website is a great spot to go to. On the website, there's a link to send me any inquiries or get in touch with me about anything. Right. Sometimes I have people that will contact me just to ask me some questions.
Sure.
Hey, I have this thing. I just was wondering if I could get your advice on some stuff. That's totally fine too. That's a great place to start. On the website, there's also a phone number on there. That phone number is my personal cell phone number. So texting that number is always a good way to get in touch with me as well. Yeah.
And you have social media accounts like
Yeah, I have an Instagram page. Yeah, Facebook page isn't necessarily right now up and running exactly the way I want it to. So the Instagram's where I'll post a lot of things that we're talking about right now, right? Things nutritionally or stuff like that to improve somebody's outcomes in their rehab.
And what's your handle on Instagram?
That is advanced movement PT _ JD.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be in the description too of the podcast. Excellent.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Any closing words for people before we
So I think the biggest thing is, right, wrap up everything. Purpose is key, right? Make sure purpose is key. Don't neglect your diet when you're rehabbing, because that can make or break a rehab response. And then just take the process the way it needs to happen, right? Don't rush the process. Your body will dictate to you what you can and can't do.
Awesome. All right. Well,
Yeah.
Garrett, it's been a long time coming. Thank you for coming on, and of course, thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Get my strength back in my shoulder.
You got it.
Appreciate it a lot, and my body thanks you as well. And we'll see you soon. Okay.
Absolutely. Appreciate being here. Take care.
Strength and honor.
Yeah, take care.